Yeah, the Black Fundraisers Podcast. This lock right here. What up, Kia?
CH at lock 121.
Get the check out like a physical. We get the checks and the Cheerios. Counting like chocolate cereal. We need the fun and residuals. We get the money and flip it, cause we gotta get it. We talking finances, funding and grant biz. Getting and making advances, taking chances with the hot topics. Racism, politics, non-profits. Kia Kroon, she gon' drop knowledge. Whatever you want, the pod got it. Get your facts right. Deep dive and get baptized. Black business, black life, black money, black power, black pride. And the POCs tryna see those V's like a casino. Sitting on TOP, we just spitting our POV. We gon' ride till we on E. We pushing the pedal, we over the limit. We never gon' settle, we been with the business. Every episode is gon' be the realest. Every week you gotta pay us a visit. Come on and hang, hot as a flame. Hating is lame, taking the aim. Changing the game, stay in our lane. Breaking the chain, making it rain. Making it hurricane. Kia Kroon, now you heard the name. The Black Fundraisers Podcast, that's on everything.
Hello, hello, hello out there. It is your favorite fundraiser, Kia Kroon, the nonprofit fundraising badass herself, founder and host of the Black Fundraisers Podcast, your favorite podcast. And we're back and better than ever. And I just want to thank those of you that tune in to our podcast episodes. I want to thank those and welcome those newcomers, new to the platform. Hopefully, I will share information or have some conversations that you find particularly valuable, whether we're talking fundraising, conceptual knowledge, or whether we're just talking navigating while being Black in this space, which I think is just as important, if not more important, than conceptual knowledge of fundraising. So we'll be talking about it. But today, y'all, my spirit is a little heavy. As I go into this short segment here, because it's not lost on me that today marks the 4-year anniversary of the very heinous murder of George Floyd. And I just want to take a moment, give a moment of silence to remember the good brother George Floyd, to remember and honor those that were a part of or contributed to the movement for Black lives as we came to know it in 2020. And, those who came out and used their voice across the country to decry racial injustice. So I just want to have a moment of silence, and just say, God bless the dead, God bless his soul. Quick moment of silence. Yeah, 4 years. 4 years. It's been 4 years, and today the state of affairs is starkly different than it was 4 years ago. If you're like me, you remember May 25th. You started getting those emails from corporate America, declaring their commitments to racial equity, racial justice, anti-racism. You had an email in your inbox from Etsy declaring its corporate values around anti-racism and their support of Black Lives Matter. You had emails from companies like Best Buy. I could go on. Emails from anybody that had your email address, declaring their commitment to DEI and racial justice, social justice, anti-racism. It's a completely different day today. And some people celebrate that, but a lot of people lament, like myself, because it's not lost on me that 4 years ago, well, actually, over the last 3.5 years, 4 years to be exact, corporate America made pledges of some $340 billion in philanthropic support to Black-led causes across the country, in the spirit of racial equity, under the banner of racial equity. Um, we had people in the streets, masked and unmasked, atoning, protesting, demonstrating, and challenging America to really reckon with its conscience and to see the humanity of Black folks. This wasn't a racial reckoning for Black folks. We've been known, our lived experiences every day navigating as Black people, experiencing racism. It was really more or less perhaps a reckoning for white folks who didn't believe, there was even a thing as racism, like this is a post-racial society. Um, the point of what I want to talk about is those organizations that were the recipient of those racial equity dollars committed from corporate America over the last 3.5, 4 years since George Floyd's murder. And my team and I created an infographic, which I want to share, that just kind of breaks down the story as we saw it play out. From the time George Floyd was murdered through, we're going to take a little gallery walk through history and reflect on where we are now in a society where the DEI backlash is at an all-time high, anti-Blackness is at an all-time high, particularly misogynoir, anti-Blackness being perpetrated on Black women. Allow me to share. Y'all know I'm still getting my stuff together and learning how to share these screen shares. So I want to direct your attention to this infographic. My wonderful team produced this to really demonstrate how racism is harming Black-led nonprofits, which ultimately means it's harming Black communities in America and Black and brown people, right? So we start here with the very vicious and untimely, unconscionable murder of George Floyd. We go on to the alleged racial reckoning, right, in June of 2020. And we saw corporations double down on DEI, anti-racism. We had companies even, making commitments to institute more diversity management, keeping better account of, the number of diverse hires they're making, or, adapting their recruitment and retention goals to increase the recruitment and retention of Black people, Black and brown people, right? Between May of 2020, October 2022, according to McKinsey, a report from McKinsey's Economic Mobility Division, corporate America committed more than $340 billion to racial equity causes. Their reporting indicates that 140 billion of those dollars went to these particular types of causes: affordable housing, financial inclusion, small business development, education, you name it. We saw between this period, May 20th to October 2022, May 2020 through October 2022, we saw Black-led organizations across the country receive record gifts, right, which functioned as crisis gifts from companies, some of them had never even heard of, whether they were in their backyard, whether they were across the country. Organizations were the recipients of these gifts, which were largely transactional. What do I mean by transactional? I mean, it's a transaction. There's no interest in, the corporation and the Black-led nonprofit establishing a strategic alliance and becoming formal partners. There was no interest in supporting the organization in perpetuity. It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Corporations were just giving and highly transactional. Their gifts were quintessentially crisis gifts, right? And we see crisis gifts in times of crisis and disasters, right? We see organizations like the American Red Cross or CARE or other organizations receive crisis gifts, right? Which are those one-time, point-in-time gifts, right? To respond to a crisis. Black-led organizations were the recipient of those funds. And then a series of events would take place that would usher us into where we are today, where anything Black is a bad word, where DEI fatigue and actual DEI backlash is at an all-time high. We saw conservatives began to stoke those woke wars. This is when we saw conservatives talking about book bans and critical race theory. And, book bans were instituted that impacted children, some 82 million children across the globe in 86 school districts. We saw that, right? Beginning of the end. We saw DEI began to wane in 2022 as companies began to cut their DEI budget. And we also saw an exodus of DEI executives, those same executives that were hired in 2020, those token hires, arguably, that were hired in 2020, that were brought into organizations under, performative intentions, were virtually impotent and unable to be impactful in their roles. We saw them being ushered out, or we saw them being ran out and quitting, right? Running for the hills. May 2023. We saw He Who Shall Not Be Named sign anti-DEI legislation into law. And I believe that was the first governor and to do that in any particular state, right? June of 2023. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on my way to a medical appointment and was nearly just flabbergasted and had to sit in my car when my news feed was flooded. I mean, my timeline was flooded with news that the Supreme Court had effectively ended or gutted affirmative action and race-conscious admissions. We saw that. I remember that like it was yesterday. We saw more conservative groups get more strident in their attacks on DE&I, particularly one group, the American Alliance for Equal Rights, filed a lawsuit against the Fearless Fund and the Fearless Foundation, which are agencies that make grants to Black women-owned businesses and fund entrepreneurship amongst Black and brown women, particularly Black women. January 2024. What do we have here? We saw donors. I'm not even going to dignify dude, who started this. We know his name, the quote unquote billionaire who basically welded his financial might and said, listen, I made a $20 million gift to Harvard University. My funds have been mismanaged. I'm concerned about the credentials and the merits of under which Dr. Claudine Gay was appointed, hired, and to be the first Black woman president of the university. I'm dissatisfied and essentially threatened to divest his funding and applied pressure, which resulted in Dr. Claudine Gay being asked to resign, being ousted, right? Um, we also saw the writing on the wall in December 2023. I don't mean to bounce around here, but we saw the writing on the wall with some of the largest tech companies divesting from their DE&I programs, right, significantly. And we saw the budget regressions that resulted from those, right? Um, what does all of this mean? It means that Black-led organizations that were the beneficiaries of some of that $140 billion in racial reckoning and racial justice, race equity dollars and racial justice philanthropic dollars, those dollars that were on the table in 2022, in 2021, in 2020, no longer on the table in 2023 and 2024. I literally saw organizations over the last 3.5, 4 years that were the beneficiary of some of these dollars scale their programs and solutions, staff up, serve more beneficiaries, record numbers of beneficiaries than they'd ever served before, and did so in earnest and good faith, only to find that those dollars are no longer on the table. The impact of that is some organizations have had to downsize. Other organizations may not survive, right? That means that after school programs for Black and Brown children are particularly vulnerable. That means that programs providing a lifeline to women fleeing domestic violence, right? Women and gender non-expansive people fleeing domestic violence are particularly vulnerable. Programs providing healthcare access are particularly vulnerable, right? I mean, everyone is vulnerable to some adverse impact resulting from these dollars, which are simply non-existent anymore. And as a Black woman, owner of a fundraising firm, as a Black woman fundraiser, as a human being, as empathic as I am, I'm fielding these calls, I'm receiving these emails, I'm talking to more than 200 Black leaders and founders across the country who really believe the corporate community has turned its back on the Black community. As do I. And it's a really, really sad thing. I know that we've seen these behaviors before. I don't know if it was shame on us for, being so excited that some of us finally had some of the critical funding we needed to actually meet the sheer volume and demand of our services. Maybe we were caught up in that. Whatever the case may be, there is harm being perpetrated here. And I have lost sleep this week. I've been losing sleep over the last couple of months, not every night, but some nights it's a little hard, knowing what is at stake and what that means for the little Black and brown boys and girls in these communities, the older adults, the young adults, the transition age youth, as they call them, right? The young people that are full of hope and ambition, that are trying to make it out of ghettos across America and receiving the love, support, care, and concern from after school program staffs that they lack at home. What happens when those programs go away? My heart is with every single Black leader that is out there that is trying to figure out how to make $1 out of 15 cents right now. My heart is with every organization, every leader that is responding to Black and brown people and serving Black and brown communities, and just audacious enough to get up every day and do the work and play this unfair hand that we've been dealt. You know, my heart and my prayers are with you. And while I can't do anything about racism, systemic racism, or structural inequities, I damn sure can collaborate with you all wherever you are in the country, hell, wherever you are in the world, to help level up your fundraising strategies, to help support your organizations, to help marshal resources. I have a program called the Partnership for Fundraising Equity, where I personally partner with organizations led by and serving people of color and fighting structural inequities, whether we're talking homelessness, whether we're talking health inequities, whether we're talking environmental injustice, you name it. You're showing up, you're doing the work. I want to do my damnedest to help you marshal resources to do it and work with organizations on sliding scales, and even in some cases at no cost. I just want you to know that I believe in the work you're doing. And if nobody has told you today or over the last few months or even over the last couple of years that they're with you, I'm with you. And my team and I are going to do our damnedest to keep the conversation going about the adverse impact this corporate divestment and retrenchment has had on your community, your impact, your work. We're going to keep the conversation alive. So with that, I know I've said quite a bit. I'm just going to leave it there. And I just want to remember, you know, the brother George Floyd. And yet I want to honor those Black and brown people that are literally holding communities up, literally serve as the shoulders of Black and brown communities across this country. There are organizations that literally have neighborhoods on their shoulders. I see you, I'm with you, and I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure that you get the support that you need. And until next time, good people, just like that, we're out.
You in a position very few people have been in. Now we on the money mission. We on the money mission. If they didn't listen, then they didn't have the vision. Cool, we on the money mission. We on the money mission. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your money up, money up, money up, money up, money up. Get your